Just forewarning, the content in this video can be quite disturbing. Here's a full list of everything featured, so just, viewer discretion is advised. Ready or Not as a game is insanely realistic. From the guns having lovingly crafted animations and ballistic systems, to the movement system more akin to a horror game than anything, even down to the hauntingly crafted levels that highlight the absolute depths of depravity that humanity is capable of. But I'm getting ahead of myself. For those who don't know, Ready or Not is a tactical shooter developed by Void Interactive and released fully in 2023. It features hyper-realistic gameplay as you play as a member of a SWAT team and fight with 4 other teammates, as the game states, to bring order to chaos. But since the game's release, it has faced controversy after controversy, all stemming from its highly sensitive content, with some going as far to describe the game as being overtly pro-police. And at a time where that label is highly volatile, I believe that it is something worth looking at. In an age where it seems that games are pushing for more and more realism, often at the expense of the gameplay, Ready or Not seems to stand as an exception to the rule. A game that manages to blend the realism into the gameplay without compromising the core vision. I want to understand how this is achieved and see what it can tell us about the gaming industry as a whole. Additionally, I want to analyze the game itself, understand how it features its realistic gameplay, analyze the many controversial levels that feature in the game, and conclude whether this level of realism is even needed in the modern video game industry. Whilst doing this, however, I also want to look at how realism affects the overall experience and come to a separate conclusion on how exactly realism adds to the game. But first, just a reminder that if you are enjoying the video right now, or if you enjoy the video at any point, please consider liking and subscribing, as I would be immensely grateful. But back to the video. To start analysing how exactly Ready or Not became so controversial, we should first look at, unarguably, the most controversial mission in the entire game: Elephant. If you know anything about the controversies surrounding the game, then you have heard of this mission, featuring a group of students going to a community college and, for lack of a better term, shooting it up. Their motives unclear. All you have to go on are some panicked 911 calls that honestly are haunting.
911, this call is being recorded. What is your emergency? What is your emergency?
I need help.
Can you tell me what's wrong?
I'm hiding. There's blood. So much blood.
Okay, I'm going to need you to stay calm. Do you know where you are?
No, they don't.
No, I mean, where are you?
Hiding in a cupboard. They came in and just started shooting.
Okay, that's good. Where's the cupboard?
In a classroom.
You're doing great. So you're at school. Which school?
What college? Oh, God.
Ma'am?
They're coming back.
Stay calm. I'm right here with you.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. No, please, no!
You and your squad are sent to bring the situation to a close and rescue as many people as possible. There are 2 entry sites, the main entrance and a side entrance. If you choose to enter the main entrance, you are almost immediately met with fire, likely taking out you or a squad mate. It immediately sets the scene. This situation is not one to be taken lightly. However, the worst is yet to come. As you and your squad breach into the college, the horrors that you see truly capture the essence of the calamity that you are walking through. The halls lay adorned with the bodies of unsuspecting students, coming across a lecture hall filled with the massacred corpses of students just trying to learn. Just from this imagery alone, it's easy to understand the massive backlash against this mission, but ties to real life events grow the controversy even deeper. First, the name of the mission, Elephant, has a dual meaning, at least in my opinion. with its first meaning being the name of a movie covering the Columbine massacre. For those who don't know, Columbine was unarguably the most influential school shooting in American history, and not for good reasons, as shooters Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold entered Columbine High School on April 20th of 1999 and shot and killed 12 students and 1 teacher. But the connections run deeper than just that. One of the shooters in the mission resembles Eric and Dylan, wearing similar clothes, and the shooters in the mission also plant improvised bombs around the school. In real life, the Columbine shooters also planted these type of improvised explosives, but fortunately they failed to detonate. Connections also lie deeper with the movie, as the name of the high school featured in the movie was called Watt High School, and the community college in game being called Watt Community College. However, I think that the name elephant can also connote another meaning, that of it addressing the elephant in the room. With school shootings being extremely prevalent in America, however controversial, with 385 mass shootings just this year, 2024, happening in America, I think that this is a form of the developers acknowledging the taboo nature of the material. But to be a police game in the current year, it seems that they are saying that these topics need to be covered to fully explore what police have to deal with. When taken like this, it seems justifiable, with Void Interactive intentionally making the mission extremely visceral, not to draw attention to the game just for the sake of shock, but to deliver a profound message on the current state of America, and I do believe that the mission more than delivers, at least in this aspect. The imagery of the mission is undeniably haunting, and I can only imagine how the actual events must be to those who have been forced to experience such tragedies. But another mission in the game that was so controversial that it forced the developers to temporarily remove the mission is Neon Tomb. Neon Tomb finds you and your squad attempting to fight back against a group of terrorists known as the Hand, who have taken over a nightclub called Neon and perpetrated a mass shooting, killing over 60 people. Much akin to Elephant, the imagery is no less horrific, with mounds of corpses ordaining the dance floor of the club, the thudding dance music standing in stark contrast to the scenes unfolding in front of you. A reminder of the broken normalcy that will now forever haunt these halls. You make your way through the club, passing through the seemingly ceaseless dead as you find and dispatch the terrorists, only adding to the already substantial number of dead. Eventually, you do stand victorious, but the victory seems hollow. So many already laid dead, seeming more like a conclusion than anything to be remotely celebrated. Honestly, this feeling is present in basically all missions of Ready or Not. Even for missions you complete with an S rank, rescuing all civilians and subduing all enemies non-lethally, there will still be dead. You cannot be everywhere, and as such, people die. No matter how well you perform after the fact, it won't ever bring back those already lost. With you serving as a response unit, you only see the worst that humanity has to offer. But back to the mission. The controversy of this specific mission comes from the nightclub itself. First, it seemingly resembles the 2016 Pulse nightclub shooting, in which 29-year-old Omar Mateen shot and killed 49 people and wounded 53 more at the gay nightclub Pulse. This, on its own, wasn't the reason for its temporary removal from Steam. However, some did criticize it considering the recency of the shooting. But overall, the response wasn't too negative, at least considering the backlash that others had received. Instead, its removal came from the most insidious force of all, copyright infringement. It turns out, in the old version of the game, the nightclub wasn't known as Neon, and instead was called Prism. This was a major issue, as British nightclub franchise Prism held the copyright for the name, and as such sent a copyright claim and got the level pulled on June 16, 2022. However, the level soon returned, but now rebranded as the Neon we know today. Whilst Neon Tomb got removed for reasons largely divorced from the themes that it was trying to convey, the next missions never got removed, but is, in my opinion, one of, if not the most disturbing missions in the entire game. That of course being the Spider. The Spider puts you in control as you raid a place known as Brixley Talent Time, a front for child exploitation. Arriving at the scene, there are multiple different entrances that you can take to breach the building: the lobby, the courtyard, or the roof. We enter through the main entrance, dispatching the guards that start to shoot at us. Inside the lobby are usually female civilians who express concern for their children's well-being, asking us to keep them safe. But nevertheless, no children can be found on the map. Honestly, it's a blessing. Passing through after detaining all those we have come across so far, we enter a children's waiting room. Toys, games, and worst of all, clothes discarded on the floor. We continue on to the Smile Room, containing green screens, the walls being plastered with photos of children. Continuing past this awful sight, we come to an office, occupied by Brixley, the leader of the group exploiting children. However, if you encounter him after killing / non-lethally dealing with his security, and if you fail to detain him first, he attempts, often succeeding, to take his own life. Being aware of his heinous crimes and the fact that he would be in jail for a very, very long time, likely being killed for his crimes against children, he chooses to take the cold lead of a gun barrel over any other thing. Whilst first hearing the description of this mission, it may not sound as bad as the first two missions I have talked about, but for me, it's the experience of slowly discovering the insidious reasons behind this building's use that truly disturbed me. Progressing through this building, discovering more and more disgusting things, to finally be met with the Smile Room, and even in the office, there being several images of children in sickening position. It's horrific, but only because of how realistic it is. Ready or Not stands as a game that isn't scared of the darkest recesses of what humanity is capable of shining a light on the absolute depths of depravity that humans are and do commit every single day. In an era where games seem scared to broach these topics, Ready or Not stands as a sickening reminder of what we often don't see. It is for that reason that, whilst these missions are undeniably gratuitous, it's not to an edgy extent. The potent imagery needed to accurately convey the message that I believe Void Interactive is trying to convey. This is shown also through the levels of realism seen in each mission, specifically through the fact that the player stands impotent to affect the mission before they get there. While this may sound obvious, it highlights the fact that these things happen, and no amount of prior preparations or planning can stop these atrocities from being committed. But before we conclude, I want to see what impact the realism of the game has on the gameplay, and how it reflects on the themes. So without further ado, let us move on to the gameplay.
Drop your weapon! Drop it! Move it in! Officers down, we need backup. Let's go! Still make it out of this. Drop the gun and let her go. I'm not going in!
The gameplay of Ready or Not feels deliberate. Every action you take has to be carefully thought through, every single corner checked, every door examined. Otherwise you and your entire squad could end up dead from a single mistake, taken out by an overly zealous door kicking resulting in an IED exploding, not checking an angle and getting pelted by a crackhead with a shotgun, or even just failing to see a normal gunman. There are no second chances, no coming back from the brink. Once you or one of your squad members are dead, they are dead. This sense of permanence is also demonstrated perfectly through the commander mode, with your officers needing time off between missions as they get stressed and anxious, even sometimes needing therapy. It perfectly showcases how the people under your command aren't superhuman one-man armies that can run through and kill 500 terrorists whilst miraculously healing wounds and saving the day. They are ordinary men and women who are just as susceptible to bullets and trauma as anyone, as much as me or you. Honestly, this depth of realism that can be found in the campaign just further goes to show the realism that Void Interactive is trying to convey. This humanity is also shown through how the game is honestly borderline horror. It isn't, but sometimes crawling at a snail's pace through halls adorned with massacred civilians, anxiously checking each corner, each angle, each possible hiding space, just to be flanked and dropped anyway, or to walk into a trap is genuinely scarier than most horror games I have played. And honestly, this perfectly encapsulates the actual experiences of the men and women of response units just like this. Obviously, I cannot speak from experience, but I imagine the real-life SWAT units don't think that these type of deployments are anything but harrowing. In an era where realism in games seems more an excuse to max out your graphics card capabilities than it is an excuse to meaningfully add to the gameplay, Ready or Not stands as an exception to the rule. Whilst many games seem to be trying to replicate realism, as it seems the current trend with bigger budgets for graphics, bigger options of animations, and bigger size in gigabytes, they often stop short of actively changing how the gameplay performs to adopt realism, with games like Call of Duty seeking to enhance realism but aiming to keep the arcadey nature of how the game's played, sacrificing what makes realism realistic. With that part covered, let us return to our conclusion of today's video. So to conclude, Ready or Not as a game utilizes realism to a horrifically realistic extent, allowing us to experience the true horror of what humanity is capable of. From the halls of Elephant to the neon dance floors of Neon Tomb to even the seemingly innocent buildings turned into something corrupted and disgusting of the Spider, Ready or Not uses its narrative and effective environmental storytelling to really highlight issues that face modern day society. But it has to be said, is this level of realism necessary? I believe that the answer to this, as it is to most things, is extremely nuanced. In my opinion, in the case of games like Ready or Not, realism serves as a tool in their arsenal to communicate, whilst also making the gameplay both fun and engaging, whilst also allowing potent societal commentary, just through levels and environmental storytelling, with the slow movement allowing us, the player, to fully digest the level of barbarity that we are seeing. However, that is only one game. And to answer whether realism is necessary in games like Call of Duty or other more arcade-based shooters, I believe the answer is no. Most of the time, realism in these games amounts to slightly fancier graphics and more reload animations than they know what to do with, and I believe that in games like this, the budget could be better spent elsewhere. The success of games like Valorant and the newly released-ish Deadlock have shown us that perfect graphics and endless realism is not necessary to attract an audience, but that is just my opinion, so do let me know if you disagree. Finally, I want to address the allegations that Ready or Not is copaganda, a game designed to purely state how good the police are. And in an era as politically charged about law enforcement as current-day America, I see why this discourse exists. But in my opinion, saying Ready or Not is copaganda is like saying that Outlast is a good recruitment ad for journalism, or Until Dawn is a good endorsement for living in the mountains. It's a patently false misrepresentation of what the game is trying to communicate. And honestly, if you come out of playing Ready or Not saying that you want to be a cop, you may want to seek psychiatric help. But overall, Ready or Not is a game that realism adds a lot to, helping lend significant impact to the darker themes of the game and really helps sell the game's atmosphere of just being someone that isn't especially special, playing just a normal guy with a job. And I think that people forget that the game is about, as said in the hub area, our mission is not to create widows and orphans, it is to bring order to chaos. And I think that they would do good to remember it. That was that. A bit of a shorter video because I'm trying to cook up some other ideas right now, but I still hope you enjoyed. Honestly, I do really like Ready or Not as a game, and so I was excited to cover it, but do let me know what you thought of the episode. I would also like to thank you all for the amazing response to my last two videos. It does mean the world to me. But as always, if you did enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one.